Good afternoon. This is Sarah Vonfeld for EDL 850 Module 1, Government Control of Public Education. My personal demographics: I am originally from Palco, Kansas, which has a population of around 300. You can see the picture up at the top. That's my whole town. I graduated from Fort Hays State with a BA in history, and then I got my secondary education also in history. I also have a BS degree in elementary education. I'm not married, but I do have a large extended family, as you can see from my pictures, and I also have a beautiful cat named Jane Austen. My hobbies include historical reading, biographies of historical people, fiction, nonfiction, and I also love visiting historical sites. I have been an instructor for 19 years. I was a first grade teacher for 1 year at Sacred Heart Elementary in Dodge City. And the past 18 years, I was the sixth grade teacher at Sacred Heart Elementary in Plainville. We lost our sixth grade last year, so this year I moved down to the fourth grade position. And then next year I will become the principal at Sacred Heart. Our three levels of government: federal government, managing public schools. The department is headed by the Department of Education, which has the Secretary of Education as their leader, and it has a limited authority due to the 10th Amendment. Duties and responsibilities: policies related to education funding. They only contribute 8% of funds to elementary and secondary schools. The funds come from the Department of Education, the Department of Health and Human Services Head Start program, and the Department of Agricultural Lunch program. They also collect data and research, and this helps measure effectiveness in the government's own programs. They also identify problems in education at the national level. And they have instituted the NSEA, which is the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and the NCLB, which is the No Child Left Behind. And they also run the Title I programs. They also enforce discrimination laws. This is where most of that 8% of funding goes, to make sure that we have civil rights in our schools, that we observe disability acts, and that we also have the Title I. The state government is responsible for overseeing the public education, and this is where most of our duties and responsibilities come from for public education and the funding for education. It is managed by the governor, the state legislature, and the Kansas Board of Education. The Kansas Board of Education is the general supervisor of the public schools. They perform other duties as may be provided by law that is instituted through the state legislature. It is a 10-member panel, and they are elected by each district's constituents. We also have a Commissioner of Education who is appointed by the State Board of Education. The duties and responsibilities of the state government: they adopt and maintain standards of school libraries and other educational material except textbooks. They also are in charge of the course of standard study and curriculum, such as they set our standards. They also accreditate schools, including elementary and secondary, and both public and non-public schools. And they also oversee the certification of administrators, teachers, counselors, school nurses, school district supervisors, non-public administrators, and teachers. They also oversee private schools. And they also provide and allocate funding. Local school board duties and responsibilities. As a private parochial school, Sacred Heart does not have a school board per se. We do have a school council, but it is only an advisory board and does not make official policies for the school. The pastor of the parish, along with the input from the principal, makes the policy decisions. These protocols are then communicated to the various advisory boards. So once the principal and the parish pastor makes an agreement, we take it to the parish council. the school board or the school council, and the finance council for recommendations. So our parish council, school council, and our finance council can make recommendations such as where we spend our money, um, what kind of curriculum we have, our uniform policies. But if the pastor does not like what they have to say, then he has the final say at the parish level and can reject their recommendations. As I said, the recommendations by the councils could include how we deal with our various publics, our financial expenses, and our receipts. Um, I would say that most of our school board or our school council does deal with the finances of the school and not much with anything else in our school. They don't have any say in our hiring practices. We do comply with a few federal laws, including the EOE and the lunch program. We also follow several state laws, such as standards and certification of our teachers. The Diocese of Salina also has an advisory council that assists the superintendents of schools in those instances requiring a major decision which would affect, in whole or in part, the Catholic school communities throughout the diocese. However, the ultimate decision is made by the bishop of the diocese. One example is that all of the schools in the diocese used to be separate, and we would get accredited separately. But a couple of years ago, we were grouped into much like a school district, and all of the schools within our diocese are now considered one district, and so we're all accredited together as one district. The functions of the school Catholic School Committee shall include but not be limited to advice and assistance in the planning and development of educational programs, endeavors, events within the diocese. That especially has to deal with anything that has to deal with our faith-based standards. So they will give recommendations on what type of religion books that we use or any type of faith-based projects. They also give recommendation and formulation of policies, giving general direction for administrative action to the superintendent and Catholic schools administrators. So they can give recommendations to how principals and superintendents deal with different publics within the school system. They also recommend to the Office of Catholic Education that can be assistance in assuring the financial stability of the Catholic schools within the diocese. So once we have set our finance budget and the finance council has agreed to it, we do have to send our finance budget to the diocese, and the Catholic School Committee looks over that to make sure that we are using our budget wisely. And they are participating in the search for and selection of superintendent of Catholic schools if and when such a vacancy in the office occurs. Local government, managing public schools. The school board is elected by the general public or mayor. The local community does the election of them. And also the mayor can, in large cities such as Chicago, appoint the school board. These are usual volunteers, and they usually serve terms, which are usually 4 years, and they may be subject to recall according to what their constituents wants. Some duties and responsibilities: oversight and development of policies. They set goals and monitor performance and quality. They also adopt the school budget and allocate resources. Employ the district superintendent. They have direction and adoption of the district curriculum, acceptance of collective bargaining agreements, and determination of policies to guide hiring of other district staff. Personal experience. Don't have too much experience dealing with the government programs, except for such as Title I and our lunch program. With the state, also not too much experience except for school accreditation, which the last couple of years I have been helping write our school accreditation. I also help with the teacher certification. I had the PDC, and I also help teachers work on their certification and make sure that they get it completed on time. And I am also part of our school curriculum board, so I can help with the standards. Local, we have our school council, which I said earlier is just advisory. We also deal with the public school district. They help with our Title I funding. We set our calendars with the local public school so that we don't have too many differences for students that attend both the Catholic school, or not students, but their families attend both the Catholic school and the public school. And we also have this public school helps us with our special services. Standard correlation. There's the standard correlation listed above. This assignment helped me become familiar with what the 3 levels of leadership are. Being in a private school, we do not deal with a lot of government regulations, so it was interesting to learn about the various programs and policies that are required by school districts. And the order of priority, I think management and operation systems should go at the top, and then communication, and then technology. I would put management and operation systems together at the top. A school needs to have a strong operation system and strong management in order to create a working school system. Communication is also important because it allows the management of the school to relay the operation systems to the publics that are connected to the school. Technology is also needed the equation because it helps with the communication of the information from school management. Relevancy. Prior to reading the assigned material, I was not aware of all the public policies that the public school systems had to deal with. This assignment was relevant to my current learning because as a building administrator, I will need to know who controls educational policies at the various government levels. And because we deal a lot with our local public school district, it is important that I realize who and what policies are controlled by the local government. This assignment will influence the way I make a decision because I know that local governments levels control what programs I learned, that the state government also makes the most decisions for how a school is run and what they are supposed to teach in the way of curriculum standards. I also learned that as a private school, we have a little more leeway on how we approach certain regulations regarding making decisions for our local school. We do not have a school board to make our decisions. The principal and the pastor work together in creating policies and regulations for our school to follow. And here is a list of my references that I used for my presentation. And thank you for listening.